Good afternoon. Peace be with you. April 16th, continuing my spiritual autobiography, Moses to Muhammad in 60 Years, peace be upon him. And I'm in the middle of discussing my initiation into the path of truth, a search for truth, which involved the assassination of President Kennedy when I was 14 years old in 1963. So, as we continue. The assassination of President Kennedy took the floor out from under me. I was a big fan. At 14, boys look for heroes, role models. My father was always my hero and role model in many ways, but beyond my immediate family, President Kennedy stood tall as a bona fide hero at the time, especially after I had read the book and saw the movie PT-109. President Kennedy had commanded a PT boat in World War II in the Solomon Islands. Recent discoveries have said, it might have been his seamanship that helped him get into problems and get into the accident in the first place, and get into the trouble in the first place. But that remains to be seen. But how he responded is what we're talking about here. And that's when his boat was attacked and was sinking, he personally saved many members of his crew, swimming miles, carrying people, and permanently injured his back doing it. Now it has come out that the whole incident may have been partially his fault. I'm not going there, but because either way, he saved many lives and acted heroically in the process. I was so inspired that such a man was the president. Now he was dead, and the official story stank to high heaven, even back when it was fresh. As I reflect on my life, I realize as this was my initiation onto the path of truth, that I am still on after over a half a century and am still counting, although I believe with certainty that the main truths I have sought have been shown to me, have been bestowed upon me to be conscious of. But there is always more to learn, however, even after the initial awareness has been granted. It is the start of a new semester in the School of Life. Since November 1963, I have not trusted anything at face value that I have heard or read in the media. I've been looking deeper into every headline since, every major story that affects the whole world and all humanity, seeking the truth behind the headlines, the reality behind the illusion. And what I have discovered is so vast and overwhelming. I realized early on that only our Maker can save us from what is happening in this world. And not only was the disconnect in the earthly arena, but it was also in matters of religion and spirituality. I was seriously looking into that as well, thirsty to understand why I was created, why I'm alive, and what's my purpose. Chapter 4, Appearance and Reality. The year after President Kennedy's assassination, 1964, something else happened that forever changed it. For me, it was emotionally crushing at the time, but as I look back, it was a great blessing. Allah works in strange and mysterious ways sometimes, for sure. In February 1964, the Beatles, the long-haired singing group, most of us, you know it automatically. For anyone who doesn't know who the Beatles were, the long-haired singing group in the 60s, they kicked off the long-haired stuff. They were on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was a variety show that showed every Sunday night in America. Families gathered around the TV to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. So the Beatles were on in February '64, the popular TV variety show that featured new talent from around the world. It was not common knowledge at the time, but since then I learned that they and other musical groups like them were created, packaged, and presented to the youth of the world for a hidden agenda. That was why John Lennon was killed, most likely, because he was going to spill the beans. But back then, they were all treated like mushrooms, fed poop and kept in the dark. That's how you grow mushrooms. You feed them poop and you keep them in the dark. That's an expression. Forgive me, I don't mean to be vulgar, but that wasn't vulgar. It's just a fact. That's how you grow mushrooms. You feed them poop and you keep them in the dark. That's how they grow. If you like mushrooms, then deal with it. Okay? No disrespect. And this new hip quartet of mopheads were the new gold standard of coolness in our youthful society. The Beatles' dress, hairstyles, behaviors, and music set the tone for our generation and for generations to come. And not long after the Beatles came to America, the unthinkable happened. While all the guys were growing their hair long like the British rock stars, my hair started falling out in big clumps all over my head. My parents took me to dermatologists, psychiatrists, even to Johns Hopkins University for some special research testing. Alopecia areata, they called it, patchy hair loss in Latin. Developed over the next few years into alopecia universalis, exactly what it sounds like, total hair loss on my whole body due to an unknown cause. Johns Hopkins University was doing research on it, so after a week of biopsies, photographs of my hairless pubic areas and my patchy head hair for their medical books and observations, my parents and I were told that it was related to the immune and thyroid systems, but there was no more information available. And since it was not a life-threatening illness, no one was doing any telethons to raise millions of dollars to find a cure for hair loss. Okay, so there I was, losing my hair at the dawning of the Beatles invasion and the age of Aquarius, in the middle of my adolescent years, and 15, when in modern American society, young males and females started noticing each other and dating. Having long hair was cool, not only in this country, but all over the world. I looked mangy. I combed over and wore hats a lot while I still had something to comb. I hated and feared the wind. Friends were few in those days. I was weird looking and therefore a social pariah. No more part of the good-looking in the crowd, a good-looking in crowd, which I had enjoyed the benefits of before. I learned then about what a friend really is. I learned that this body is not me, but I am inside this body. I learned that a person can be cool but not show it on the outside, and some people can look cool on the outside but not really be cool at all, just be riding on their outer appearance. So what I thought was a curse on me was perhaps one of the greatest blessings of my life, to lose my hair at the height of the frenzy over the Beatles. Allah saved me from the deep end of the adolescent peer group swamp and taught me a lot about people that has served me well throughout my life. Of course, I did not see it like that when it was happening, but as I matured, and this experience made me mature faster than normal, I understood that Allah had separated me from the herd for a reason, in His wisdom and for His purpose. I began to wonder even deeper what that purpose was. I think Allah kept me from the high school social scene for a few reasons in retrospect. After the events of the year before and my curiosity and skepticism about the official report of the Kennedy assassination, I felt freed up to investigate at will without any undue scrutiny. I was already sort of a social outcast for my appearance, so looking into JFK, Vietnam, and other events did not raise any additional hassles for me. I was already considered a weirdo. Allah saved me from much of the permissive and promiscuous behavior among teenagers that increased as the 1960s rocked and rolled along. And I'm going to stop right now at 8.5 minutes. To be continued. Peace be with you.